Sup guys, Fat Archon here, bringing another 40k review. Today, by special request, we're going to be going over how to start collecting and playing a new Chaos Space Marine army for Warhammer 40k 10th edition. I'll be covering some of their playstyle, some of the box sets they have access to, which are pretty amazing, some of them, expanding those box sets, and then at the end I have some modeling tips, and then a few, I have some 1k lists I want to show you guys for if I was starting like a new CSM army. As always, please consider liking and subscribing if you could. Every thumbs up helps, so like if you don't mind, like hit the thumbs up, that would be appreciated. Fine if you don't. This video is mainly going to be geared to like newer players, so 1000%. If you guys have any questions whatsoever about CSM or Chaos in general, feel free to ask it. I read literally every comment, so like don't be afraid to reach out for anything, whether it's like list, what units you might consider, or tactics, rules questions, any of that stuff. I and the other commenters, I'm sure, will be happy to help, so don't be afraid to reach out one bit. So, before we jump into it, I do need to cover the golden rule of collecting a new 40k army. The golden rule states, always buy a unit that you think is cool. Whether it's competitive or not, doesn't matter. So long as like you like the unit, maybe it doesn't have to look cool, maybe just like the fluff behind it. Whatever the reason is, always pick out kits that you yourself enjoy. Reason being, the meta freaking like waxes and wanes all the time. Every couple months, like something big is gonna change. At least that's how it's been the last like year or so. All the time. A perfect example is like Chosen and Rhinos. Chosen and Rhinos were like the most common sight ever when you were going to tournaments. That's all you saw. Them and like 3 bricks of a cursed cultist. Yeah, extremely common. Suddenly, GW decided to nerf all of them and then some, and CSM went from like highly competitive to all of a sudden they were a 40% win rate army. So stuff like that changes all the time. Again, 1000%. Make sure whatever kits you pick up, make sure they, that you yourself enjoy them. Lastly, I need to put up another, like, flashing light disclaimer, like, so, warning. So, this video is not competitively focused. This video is, like I mentioned in the beginning, it's geared for newer players, or players who are trying to expand their CSM army. Now, my channel is, like, I would argue it's mainly focused on competitive play, so if that is something you're interested in, check my video library. I definitely have videos on, like, CSM, Demons, Chaos Knights, like, you name it. I have some videos on them, so if that's something you're looking for, check it out. Maybe watch this one first if you're a new player and then watch those later, but I do have a lot of tactics videos, but this one specifically is going to be about collecting. Now, don't get me wrong, I'm going to point out units that are like especially good and ones that you should probably look at. Hello, Warp Talons. So like there will be a little bit of that in there, but this is for, this is for new players. You're not going out there just to stomp your buds. Always, I would hope that the whole main point of going out there is to have some fun. Anywho, with that all out of the way, we can jump right into it. So, to start off, I wanted to touch on CSM's playstyle. So, something I love about Chaos Space Marines is they bring a little bit of everything, man. They're, they're like a melee-focused army that has really good at shooting, like exceptional shooting. Debatably, some of the best shooting in the game, which is hilarious because they also bring some of the better melee in the game. So, those two combined are fantastic as it is. I also like that they're sort of an elite army. They like lean more towards elite for the most part, yet they also have some some horde-ish-ness to them. Cultists are like the big obvious one. You can run them in blobs of 20, and currently, as it stands, it'd only be 100 points for that. Like, that's pretty meaty right there. Then you got a cursed cultists, which are just fantastic on their own. But then on the opposite side of the spectrum, you got, Terminators, you got Possessed, you got Chosen, Obliterators. You got all these, like, smaller size units out there that lean more elite, but again, you still got the horde option if you want to go that style. You could even play, if you play like the Chaos Cult detachment that just arrived with the codex, you even go balls out and freaking do like nothing but cultists. So you got a lot of options there. Usually you want to find a spot in between, but for the most part, CSM, they are going to lean slightly more elite-ish. I wouldn't really call them an elite army, even if you went that route. Custodes are like 10 times as elite or whatever, but again, they kind of lean that way at least. Something else they have that's like, this is like one of the main aspects of CSM is they have very high damage output. When you combine it with their army rule of being able to get either sustained or lethal hits, they can damage like literally anything, especially with the lethal hits. So you go up to like a T13 random ass Imperial Knight or something, you can still hurt it even with your lowly like Legionaries, even with your lowly cultists, they can still do some somewhat meaningful damage to them. But yes, very high damage output. That's sort of what CSM are known for. Now they do hurt themselves when they do it, but often when you have like 2 or 3 wound infantry doing it, like, yeah, you know, sort of tickles you, usually. There will be key moments where it really screws you over, ask me how I know, but for the most part, yeah, lots of damage, and they kind of tickle themselves as they go through it. The final thing that I really like about CSM, and is one of like the best parts of bringing them, this is actually one of the reasons I got into them originally. First of all, is because I had really cool units. Specifically, I saw the Lord Discordant, and the moment I saw this guy, this is like a true story, the moment I saw this guy, I bought 3 of them, and that's when I started my CSM army. But on top of that, they have access to Daemonic Allies, and not only demons, but also Chaos Knights, 2 of some of the like coolest models in the armies in the game, because they do have the coolest, if you were to ask me, they have the coolest models in the game, next to maybe the Lord Disco. Yeah, so again, you got access to demons. That means that you can, not only can you make a sick-ass looking army, not only can you make a really fluffy list, so maybe you want to go like Nurgle themed or something, and for whatever reason you don't want to do Death Guard, yeah, you can just bring Nurgle allies, but you can also improve your list with these guys. So maybe you need, yeah, Nurglings are a perfect example. These are one of the more competitive units for such a crappy, chaffy, like, yeah, shit unit that you would assume sucks. Nurglings are one of the best in the game, solely from like how cheap they are and the fact they have Deep Strike, but Nurglings ultra competitive. Maybe you need some anti-horde, some anti-chaff. Flamers are perfect for it. Maybe you need a source of mortal wounds. Blood crushers are perfect for it. Million reasons that yeah, having allies are a fantastic option. Now again, this video is not competitively focused, so I'm not really going to go into allies too much. That said, if you're interested in demons, I actually just did a video just like a week or 2 ago that really popped off. I'm not trying to like load or nothing, but I'm pretty proud of that video. I think yeah, I hit the points I wanted to hit, and I think that was good advice. So if you're interested in demons at all, maybe check that one out. I think it's the, you know, how to run demons in 2024. It's something like that. So feel free to check that out. But yes, again, they get access to allies. A lot of armies either don't get access to allies at all, or they never bring them because they kind of suck. Chaos are spoiled in that regard. We literally do. Yeah, we have the best allies in the game, if you were to ask me. Alright, now on to actually collecting the army. Probably something a lot of you are here for. So, as with every army, I'm always going to suggest you start with a core. You know, you start with a core to build off of. Now, with CSM, luckily, they have some pretty good options to start off with that do cover the cores really well. Now, I do have a little bit of sad news in this regard. So they have a new combat patrol. That's going to be no issue to get. But they also had 2, I believe, 2, no, it's sort of 3, 2.5, we'll say, like special box sets, like limited release or whatever. They're pretty much all sold out. They're pretty much all gone. If I'm not mistaken, they were gone within like a minute of getting listed on the website. So unfortunately, they're not going to be something you see that often. Now, don't get me wrong, you will sometimes see them on Amazon. More commonly, you'll see them on eBay. Be careful on the price you pay. Like, don't help those scalpers if you can help it. If you really want it and you're getting savings, that's the big thing, then, you know, you do you, man. You're an adult. You figure it out. But, you know, I don't like helping the scalpers. But again, they will show up from time to time. One of them for sure, the boarding patrol, which we'll go over in a minute, that one should show up relatively often. But the other 2, like, if you got one, man, you should feel really lucky. Now, again, I will still go over them, A, in case you do find them, and B, for people who did pick them up, because they're pretty sick. You'll see here in a minute. But yeah, I wanted to get that out of the way, that a few of them, unfortunately, aren't going to be like that easy to get your hands on. I will also like sort of address if you're not able to get, because I would recommend you get a combat patrol. We're about to go over that in a second, so I would recommend you get that. But I'll touch on if like maybe you want to do your own thing, and for whatever reason you don't want to pick those units up, I will touch on that as well. So for combat patrols, so you got 2 of them. One of them is like new, and so it's like currently being released, and so will basically never go away. This one's always going to be available. The other one is, I'll call it the quote-unquote legacy kit. So they just quit producing this. Now a bunch are still in the wild, so they're still out there. I checked before making this video. I saw a bunch on Amazon for like fair price, like regular price, I should say, and then a bunch on eBay. So 100% you can still get the legacy one, at least at the time of this recording. And either of them are great. I kind of lean towards the legacy one, but even the normal one is great as well. So the current combat patrol, it's going to be a master possession, 5 possessed, a 10-man squad of cultists, and then 10 legionaries, which you'd probably consider splitting up like this. Depends who you want to attach the MOP to. Probably goes with the possessed. That would be my guess. So I love this one. I think this is a great kit. Basically covers like your core being an HQ, infantry, and then a hammer. So, you know, HQ, infantry, sort of a hammer, preferably be a 10-man, but you can always expand it to that. All of these units are fine. Debatably, Master Possession, he just got a little nerf in the codex, so he's not, like, as good as he was, unfortunately. I used to run this guy all the time, but he is still, like, usable, and in fact, like, time will tell if he's still competitive. He has a damn good pistol that will assassinate the fuck out of, like, small characters. He's, like, a little small character, like, muncher, so, especially in smaller point games, actually, a 1k game or under, I bet he's stronger than normal, so that's actually a pretty good addition there. Otherwise, yeah, you got the core. Cultists are, like, a must-have. I include cultists literally, like 95% of my list are going to have cultists in them. They really are that good, guys. If you're brand new and you really think like, oh, they're a terrible profile, why would I ever run them? You run them because they're cheap and they sit on your home field, so they're fantastic. Legionaries are a must-have, especially currently. Currently, they are so cheap. They are some of the best. I wonder who's a better battle line. Thousand Suns probably give them a run. The Rubrics probably give them a run for the money. But these are some of the best freaking battle line in the entire game. Some of the best like infantry in the game, mostly off their points value, but they also do like a good amount of damage. So Legionaries are great. And then Possessed, A, they're fun. B, they look sick as hell. They're some of my favorite looking models in CSM right now. And C, they can do some work. They can. Especially, so the tip I'll give you, if you can give them reroll wounds somehow, so depending on the detachment you choose, then they really pop off at that point. So Possessed are totally valid. They also have 3 wounds. They're T6. Everybody always thinks they're T5. Nah, they're T6, man. With a 9-inch move, yeah, they're speedy little killers, so I like them a lot. This is definitely, if I was starting a brand new army, 100%, man. Yeah, I would almost assuredly start off with this kit. The only one, like I said, the only one that's questionable is the Master Possession, and debatably the Possessed, because they are only AP1, so they do have a little bit of downside to them, but I still think they're fine. I've been running them for a long time. Run big bricks of 10 is usually how I do it. When you give them to reroll the wounds, they really pop off. But yes, again, this is a perfectly fine kit. If you are brand new to the army and you want to get started, yeah, man, just pick this up. Next up, we got the Legacy Kit, as I'll call it. So this one has Dark Apostle, 2 squads of Legionaries, or 10 Legionaries, a Hellbrute, and then 5 Havocs. So this is a great kit as well, obviously. It's debatable if it's better than this one. I kind of like it more, man, because it gives you, like, this one gives you, like, firepower. It gives you, like, heavy firepower. So, Dark Apostle, first of all, just looks sick as hell. I love this model so much, and painting him was really fun. He was surprisingly easy to paint. They look complicated, but no, he wasn't that bad to paint. Legionaries are always awesome. What's cool, you can attach this Apostle to him. You'd probably consider the brick of Legionaries at that point to do a 10-man. They suddenly get the +1 to wound and have really good leadership, so that's nice there. Havocs are fantastic. Not only do you get the anti-tank, but they can also give you anti-horde. Hell, you could do like missile launchers or Reaper, autocannon sort. You can do like a little bit of both. So these are like super valuable to have. They're very powerful right now too. I've been running them a lot with my codex list. I've been running like a lot of times I run 2 Havocs. I've been having really good results with them. They fit in a Rhino as well. Rhinos have firing ports, so all of a sudden your Rhino's gonna have 2 las cannons shooting out of it. Like, yeah, man, they get pretty strong. And then Hellbrute is he is good. It's just like, he used to not be that good because he's so expensive, but he did get a points break unless they changed it in the codex. But Hellbrute, what I especially love about this guy, he buffs up the rest of your dudes. He'd be especially good with Havocs. Essentially, he gives you both sustained and lethals when you do your Darks Pact. That ultra adds up, and again, especially with Havocs, it pops off, but it also works with Legionaries, like, just fine as well. They also buffed it in the codex, so if you go pure melee, if you give them 2 melee weapons, so you don't go the gun, you give him like a hammer and then a fist, then he gets, what, +2 attacks on his melee? That adds up, man. When you have pretty power, if you go the hammer, that's what, D6 +2 damage? Like, that's pretty powerful, man. That's pseudo anti-tank at that point. You do have to get a melee, but still, that's like partly fills up your anti-tank there. Again, I like this one the most. I would get a squad of cultists after. We'll go on add-ons later, but yeah, I would probably add some cultists, but otherwise, this is a perfect starting point. Yeah, I'd be happy with this. Again, I checked right before recording this video. I saw like dozens of the kits still on Amazon. It only just went out of production. So if you're watching this video like a year late or something, like, okay, maybe they'll be hard to get. But as it is right now, you can totally get these guys. I think, I feel like I saw one for 110, which would be a steal. But otherwise, 130, I think, USD, I believe, is how they go for it. Next up, we'll do the, I'll call them the special box sets. So these ones are hard to get. Unfortunately, GW does what it always does, and I didn't make that many. You know, pray to the dark gods if they re-release them. The odds are pretty slim, but, you know, they've surprised us before. So I'm not going to spend too much time on them just because they're going to be pretty hard to get. But in case you own them, like, yeah, I want to bring it up. So the first one is the Boarding Patrol. So, man, I wish this one was easier to get. I believe there's still some out there. So if you're watching this, like, maybe check Amazon or check eBay more likely while we're doing this. Because if I was to start a new army, this is the one I'd probably start with. So you got Abaddon, the big man himself. Who doesn't want to run Abaddon? You got 20 cultists, which you'd run more likely. You run them as 2 squads like this, but you'd also have fun and run them as a big 20-man squad. That, you know, that's always fun there. And then you got 2 squads of legionaries, so 10 legionaries. I'll mention it more in the modeling section later in this video, but with legionaries, be aware, man, you can run them as chosen if you want, so long as you get the loadout right, which chainswords, yeah, my chainsword's a cursed weapon, what are you talking about? So long as you get the loadouts right, you could totally run legionaries as chosen, so you got either or there. This would be a fantastic starting point. This would almost practically like cover your infantry section, or I should say your core. You wouldn't have to get any more cultists for a long time. Legionaries, yeah, you'd probably be fine with 2, maybe 1 more box. I'd give you 2 more squads. Yeah, this would be a fantastic kit. Again, if I were to start and they were available, 100%, that's where I'd be looking at. Next up, we got Veterans of the Long War. So you got 5 possessed, 5 chosen, 10 freaking Terminators, and then 10 Legionaries. This is a damn good kit. This basically hits every single elite that you would need. Once you got this, you're basically set on the elite. So you could get maybe another box of Possessed, that'd be fine, so you run a brick or bring 2 squads of 5. But otherwise, yeah, man, you'd be set. Again, with being able to convert Legionaries to Chosen, like your Chosen be covered. Yeah, man, if you manage to get your hands on this kit, first of all, like, leave a comment below, like, gloating about it. But otherwise, pat yourself on the back. You're a lucky dog. If you're a scalper, you can just unsubscribe right now, though. Next up, we got the Dread Talons. This was another pretty awesome kit. I do think Veterans of the Long War was better, but this one's pretty awesome. So you got Dark Commune, which, by the way, is like one of my favorite newer kits, especially for CSM, but just like 40k in a whole. Awesome kit. You got Demon Prince, same deal. He's got a newish kit, which looks sick as hell. You got 2 squads of Raptors, which you can also make as Warp Talons. It's probably the, I'd magnetize them, is what I would do. But yeah, you got either or. And then you got a Cursed Cultist, and then regular Cultist. So yet again, this is hitting a bunch of, a bunch of the staples. Jump Infantry are super duper good in CSM. Demon Prince suddenly got a Beat Stick. Sorta works as your anti-tank, sorta, if you run him as Corn at least. The Dark Commune would join the Cursed Cultists all the time. Suddenly got a bit of a hammer, a bit of a beat stick, so that's pretty good there. And then Cultists, again, they sit on your home field. So all these kits are good. Yet again, don't be afraid at all to get a combat troll to start your army. A lot of times they kind of suck. Like, there's many situations where they kind of suck. If I'm not mistaken, the Death Guard one's kind of iffy, and then even the Thousand Suns one doesn't have, like, 20 of the Zangors or something, so some of them are a little questionable, but CSM, theirs is, like, perfectly fine, perfectly serviceable, definitely something I would look at if I was getting started in the army again. Alright, so let's say that you did pick up one of these combat patrols, or maybe you're gonna skip them and just build your own force from scratch, whatever the reason is. So I sort of mentioned it, but like how I look at it is like every army needs to hit its core, its essentials. So for most armies, what that's going to be, you need an HQ, you need some Battleline, this isn't the best choice, yeah, you need some Battleline, and then you need a hammer, so like Possessed or Terminators, either, and when I say hammer, I mean either like, it can do some damn good damage, or it can take some damn good damage, or better yet, it can do both. So, like, Terminators would be okay at that. They don't do the most damage, but they can definitely take it. Those, I think, are like something every army needs. Oh, and then anti-tank. Anti-tank is extremely important in 10th edition. Vehicles are ultra common. Everybody knows that they're hard to wound. A strength 4 bolter is going to wound on 6. It's barely going to tickle it or whatever. So AT is incredibly important. There's certain armies out there, Knights, for example, their entire army is vehicles, or their entire army is T10. There's something called SKU list. So if you build an army that like hyper focuses on a certain build, a certain skew. Skew lists are very common. I myself have run skew lists and had very good results with them. You bring nothing but like demon engines and the sort. So anti-tank is just as, if not more important than the other ones I listed. So to start off for HQs, so you got a million options. Chaos Space Marines are spoiled for freaking leaders. Like, look, this isn't even all of them. This is like, there's like 10 of them, and there's like, yeah, it gets pretty wild there. So really, you know, dealer's choice, man. You really can't go wrong with the HQs if you're starting an army. I will say the general option, the simple one's going to be a Lord. Lords are not only, especially the baseline one, the Foot Lord, as we often call it, not only can he do a boatload of damage, but he's buffing your dudes. So yeah, Chaos Lord, that's a simple pick. If you're unsure what to like choose from, or you just want like a simple pick, like let's just get it over with, Chaos Lord you absolutely can't go wrong with. Now, maybe you're a man of substance, a man of style, you really can't go wrong with the Lord Discordant. Is he the most competitive thing ever? No, not at all. Do I care one bit? No, not at all. Lord Discordant, definitely, if you're looking for like sexy models, this guy's like one of the best. But again, you're spoiled for him. Another common one that you should definitely consider and look at, Master Execution. This guy's really powerful. He basically gives you reroll to hits, and can even give you reroll to wounds, whoever he attaches it to. What's awesome as well, when you expand your army further, this guy works as a lieutenant, so you can have 2 characters attached to a single squad. Master Execution's very strong. Again, if you're looking for one that looks sick, Dark Apostle, man, I just love this model so much. He comes with his little helplings, his little slaves as well. Very fun kit to paint. If you're more into the modeling aspect of it, the hobby side of things, yeah, man, you can't go wrong with the Dark Apostle. He's relatively cheap as well. I believe he's like $40, which in 40k dollars is very cheap. Lastly, at least for honorable mention or whatever, a Demon Prince, man. Every CSM army, even if like you're not like, even if you plan on playing competitively, a Demon Prince, he belongs. He's freaking like, he's the poster boy of Chaos. So Demon Prince is a very good option to bring along. You can make him powerful as well. What's awesome is you can customize this guy in like his rules. So you go Corn, maybe you need anti-tank or anti-elite. You go Corn, +2 strength. Maybe you want, you want to go the resilient route. You make him Demon Prince and Nurgle. He gets +1 toughness. There's a lot of fun things involved with the Demon Prince. Definitely take a look at that guy. For named characters, you got a bunch of options again. Abaddon. I'd assume this guy's going to be a very common pick. And you know what's cool too? He's really expensive point-wise, but that's a fantastic thing. That's a perk when you're building up a new collection. As of this moment, so before we know the codex points, he's 310 points. Dude, that gets you to 1k points really freaking easy. Yet again, he buffs your entire freaking army. He gets reroll of hits to literally anything, so that's fantastic. You can get 4-up invols to your mounted or infantry, like plenty of stuff there. Not only does he buff other stuff, he himself is a super ultra beat stick as well. This guy will chew through like pretty much anything you get him into combat with. He's probably going to kill it. So Abaddon, very good pick, man. Again, especially if you're building up your collection, so you already have a base and you're trying to get more points going. If you don't already own Abaddon, like, what are you thinking, man? He's the poster boy of the CSM. He's the main antagonist for the entire setting. So yeah, Abaddon's cool. Fabius Bile is a fabulous model. Not only does it look sick, but he's very strong in the game. He's really cheap. As of recording, he's 85 points, yet he has a bunch of 3 damage attacks, so in small point games, like, that has extra value there. It's not that common to have the strongest models in there. He super buffs whatever squad you attach him to. +1 strength, +1 toughness. Mwah! Again, if you're playing smaller point games, those small, like, increases there, those end up being a big deal. He can blink out damage, so he can turn an attack into 0 damage, and then finally, he's hard to kill. He gets back up on a 2-up. Lots of things to love about Fabius Bile, not only from a strength perspective, but he has really fun fluff. If you've never read the fluff on this guy, like, after this video, go check him out, man. He's like, he's such a deep character, you know. Is he as evil as people say? Yeah, he really is, but he's got a little bit of heart left in him. Cypher's a fantastic pick, again, with great lore. He's a lone op. That's going to be a big theme. So if you just need a sneaky little devil to sit on your home objective or something like that, he's worth looking at. And then Harkin is also a very valid pick. You can attach him to Raptors. Raptors, otherwise, aside from the new Jump Lord, which, I should have mentioned that. Jump Lord's going to be very valid, but Harkin is also extremely valid as well. Has pretty good damage output as well with his precision. So, you've been playing your buddy as a strong character all the time, and just like memes on you with his little character, bring along Harkin, man, give him a what for. Next up, we got Battleline. So, in my opinion, cultists are a must-have. Every single army ever for CSM, just about. Obviously, there's always special cases, but pretty much every single army ever needs at least one squad of these guys. That's how I write almost every single one on my list. Just one squad. They're 50 points, man. Again, you just like. You don't care if they die. You don't care if they do anything. You don't care if, like, they literally died, like, the moment you deployed them. Like, it doesn't even matter, man. They're 50 points. Who cares? They can screen really well. They're ultra-utilitarian for 50 points. Quantity has a quality all its own. So, definitely, if you don't already own cultists or, like, you haven't considered them yet, yes, man, go get them. Now, the upgrade would be, like, trader cultists. They're not as cheap. You're paying, like, a pretty hefty premium. It's, like, almost a 50% premium, 40% premium for admittedly much better profile, but they don't have the sticky objective, so they're not going to sit on your home better. And then lastly, got the obvious one, Legionaries, man. Legionaries belong in every single list. Maybe they come off to you as kind of generic or whatever. Nah, they aren't. Now, pro tip for you when you're building Legionaries, because I have had people reach out to me about running them with the melee with all bolters and stuff, or excuse me, not with melee, with range, with all bolters and stuff. No, man, these guys shine in melee. That's like pretty much the only way you want to run them. You can bring 2 heavy weapons per 5-man, well, no, per squad. If you go bigger, you can't bring more, unfortunately. They're always restricted to 2. But either way, you can bring 2 heavy weapons. Those are basically like power fists right there, like, daddy likey. You can buff them up with a million characters. Like, you got so many character options to buff them up with. Yeah, Legionaries are a must-have. Don't leave home without them. I often run 2 5-man squads. They're really cheap, and again, they just like add to the army. I want to mention, too, the meta, the meta for 40k is about to change pretty heavily. We have a new mission pack coming out, like, pretty soon, that's going to have Battleline. It's going to have much more value to it. So both Cultists and Legionaries are both going to gain a bit of value there. So if you don't already own them, like, it's better to prepare now, especially all the time it's going to take to paint them and build them and all that sort of stuff. I would most definitely take a look at those guys. Next up, we got the Hammer. So, like I said, the Hammer can they either dish out a lot of damage or they take a lot of damage. A lot of times they can be a quote-unquote distraction card effect, so something that your opponent has to focus down. That's a playstyle I love to do, so like Defilers would be great at it. They're scary, so they look scary, and they're usually in your face, so like those are pretty good examples. So one of them is going to be a Cursed Cultist. So these are like the budget option. They are still powerful, but yeah, these are like the budget option. They look ultra cool. I literally just painted my squads just maybe a week ago or so, and it was so much fun. They turned out way better than I thought. If you use contrast paints, they're not as bad as you might think for painting. Usually I hate contrast, but for these guys, it actually worked out pretty well. So Cursed are a great option. Terminators, like, come on, these are like the classic 40k unit, period. These guys can most definitely take some heat. They don't put out the most damage, but you can put a fair amount of power fists and chain fists on them. You can get a pretty good amount. I believe it's 4 per 5-man, so like, yeah, you got a lot of multi-damage going out there. You can give one of them the heavy weapon, either the flamer or the auto cannon. Yeah, dude, these guys do a lot of work. What I wanted to mention is if you're brand new or you're newer to 40k and you're still learning all the playstyles and stuff, yes, Terminators then, I think they're exceptionally good for newer players. Because, yeah, man, they're pretty forgiving of mistakes. Again, they can take the hits, which is fantastic, but they have the deep strikes, so it's not like you don't have to plan out your movement for 2 or 3 turns or whatever. You can just plop them down 9 inches away from wherever you want. Pro move for you is like, remember and start using Rapid Ingress. If you're not already using Rapid Ingress, add that to your repertoire. In fact, seriously, if you've never used it before, like you're that new, next game you play, force yourself to use it. Force yourself. Even if you don't need to use it, just force yourself to use it, and you'll start learning the advantages to it. It's really powerful. Terminators are great for it. Now, if you want me to be upfront with you, they're not the most competitive unit as of this moment without knowing the codex prices, but if they stay the same, which is usually how it goes with codex points, they're not the best. It's mainly the damage output. Their damage to points ratio isn't that good when you got other options, but either way, I just want to point out they're not the most competitive, but again, if you're starting an army, they're great in that sense, and they're not bad at all. They're just not hyper competitive. The other brick, another hammer option that I love personally, and I've had very, very good results the entire edition with, is Possessed. Possessed are fun. They're especially good in 10-man bricks. So if you need, and when you got them in 10-man brick, especially if you can get a reroll wounds on them somehow, they become an anti-everything. with reroll wounds, and they're once per game. And so this card I have is a little outdated. Their Unholy Bloodshed is just once per game, but you get Devastating Wounds, so you ignore armor saves of any kind. Ultra powerful. When you get it with reroll wounds, they do on average 20 damage to literally any target in the game. It could be a Toughness 1000 Ultra Knight Theny. They would do 20 damage to it. So Possessed are legit. On top of that, they're meaty little devils. Toughness 6, which is very powerful. 3 wounds, which is ultra powerful. They're relatively cheap, 130 points, like they're a steal, and they're really fast, so they're good for objective play, exceptionally good for like counter charges and stuff. I should warn you, so they do only have AP1. There's ways to boost it. So Renegade, if you're doing the Red Corsairs detachment, for example, you're going to be up to AP2 like all the time, and then they really do pop. But they're only AP1, only Strength 5. Where they're really going to struggle is versus vehicles. Versus vehicles, they're going to be wounded on 6s. Now, sure, every single wound is going to be a dev wound if you use your once-a-game ability, but do be aware that they will struggle into that sort of stuff. On the same token, pretty much the same level as Possessed, you got Chosen. So yeah, it's sort of you pick your poison. They're very, very similar to Possessed. I will say they only have damage 1, so that's one downside to them, but they have better AP, and that's a pretty big deal. AP2, you have many ways to buff it up to AP3. When you're up to AP3, like, goddamn, man, that's pretty powerful there. They can also advance and charge, or fall back and charge. Both of those are very powerful. You give them an icon, and one of their biggest advantages over the Possessed is you can put, like, many characters. You got a million character options to put on these guys, so you can buff them in whatever little specific way you want. Chosen are definitely valid. Now, again, I mentioned earlier, and I'll go over it like in more detail or more effort when I go to the modeling section, Legionaries can very, very, very easily become Chosen. So, like, you don't have to buy the kit. I will say the kit looks awesome, but Legionaries, you're basically getting like a 50% discount if you do it. So just be aware that that's an option. Next up, so I wouldn't really call him a hammer, but Venom Crawler. He's a skirmisher is what I would say, and he's one of like the premier skirmishers, not only in the army but in the game, man. Yeah, this guy does some really good work. What I love is he's resilient, so he's T9, so especially in smaller point games that like really gains value there. But he's damn fast, and man, he's pretty damn deadly. He has 2 of his Excruciator cannons, so he doesn't get 6 shots, he gets 12 shots. Anytime he kills something in melee, all of his weapons get +1 attacks, so suddenly you go up to 14 attacks. If you play it smart, like you'd be getting that like every other turn, hopefully every turn, but like every other turn, you just like finish off squads in melee. Definitely has some utility there. But again, he's a great skirmisher. With 12-inch move, he can get in no man's land from the first turn. He can get on objectives from the first turn. He has 3 objective controls, so maybe they got a 5-man, I don't know, Legionary squad there or something. You kill a few of them, boom, suddenly you out-OC them. Venom Crawler, an exceptional unit, also an exceptional model. This is one of my like more favorite units like in the entire game. When this came out, yeah, I had to buy a bunch too. Yeah, Venom Crawler, definitely worth looking at, and again, he's just fun to like look at. Last up for the beat sticks, Warp Talons. Warp Talons, like if you haven't heard the news, if you haven't heard people like freaking out already, these guys are going to be one of the premier units in the entire game. Not just Chaos, but the entire game. They changed up the rules so that now if they're at the end of the fight phase, whether it's your turn or your opponent's turn, if they're not in engagement range, they get to go up into reserves. That is gigantic. That means that you can do mission play super easy. You can deploy homers or investigate signals. Like that's ultra easy. You can get where you need them to. You can rapid ingress them, move 12 inches over your opponent's screen, and then charge as like essential character, whatever it is. Million ways that they're good just in that regard. On top of that, they have crazy good damage output. Strength 5 minus 2 AP, reroll all wounds. That is like that is premier damage output. That's gonna excel into almost anything. Anything that's not like T10 or whatever. That's gonna excel into. Orcs, they're gonna be fantastic into. Chaff, they're just gonna like consider, dude. If even a 5-man charges a squad of chaff, like don't even roll. Just pick them up. They're gone, man. Lots of power there. And again, you got plenty of ways to buff them. AP3 is gonna be no issue. Getting rerolls a hit shouldn't be that hard. Yeah, a million little ways you can take advantage of these guys. Definitely love the Warp Talons. And then lastly, okay, so these guys aren't like a beat stick at all, but they're just a great unit. Raptors. Raptors are like, they belong in almost every army. They're just cheap. They're cheap jump pack infantry. So cheap 12-inch move does all this, well, similar things that the Warp Talons can, at least in regards to mission play. They can do exactly the same, often better because they get to shoot or whatever. And then also, speaking of shooting, you can pick out the weapons you need. So if you want anti-infantry, you can give them flamers. Better yet, you need like everything. You give them melta guns, anti-infantry, or like elites, you can go plasma guns. You got lots of options there. The leader can have a power fist, and then the rest of them all have chain swords. So they're actually like okay in melee. Like, they'll hold their own in melee. Very much love Raptors. I would strongly recommend you magnetize them, but it's your army. You do what you want to do. All right, lastly, anti-tank. So again, you need anti-tank. Anti-tank is like non-negotiable. Now, I will say in smaller point games, especially if you're doing like 500 points or something, okay, like you could probably get by with it. But once you go beyond that, yeah, man, you 100% need anti-tank, especially if you ever plan on doing like tournaments of the sort. So first up, we'll do one of the top dogs like in the game now, not just for CSM, any army that has access to them. These are one of the top dogs, Vindicators. So they got a big ass gun that doubles not only for anti-horde but also anti-elite and anti-vehicle. It can basically, it's like an anti-everything gun. It literally is, but it also looks cool. I love big cannons hanging off the front of my tanks. They're T11, so very resilient with a 2-up save. That is nuts. 11 wounds, 9-inch moves. Not the pretty fast compared to most stuff, and 11 wounds, not the most ever, but with T11 2-up save, hot diggity damn, dude. That's yeah, they're gonna be mulching stuff left and right. Currently, they're 175 points, which is a steal. So for sure, if you want like premier, some of the best anti-tank you can get, definitely take a look at Vindicator. If you plan on going to RTTs in the future and stuff, within the next couple months before they change the meta or whatever, yeah, definitely consider Vindicators. That said, a perfectly viable and debatably, some people would debate it's like just as good alternative going to be the Predator. Specifically, I would recommend doing the Destructor version. So not the one I have modeled here. Do the one with the auto cannons, that's like anti-infantry focused, and then give him las cannon sponsons. Then he really does become anti-everything. The Destructor gets +1 AP if he's shooting at infantry, so you get boatloads of value there. AP1 sucks because of how common cover is. AP2 is, that's exactly what we want. That's like baseline of what you want. Yeah, only 130 points, so way cheaper than pretty much any other option we have, aside from Havocs, which we'll get to in a moment. Predator, extremely valid. What's cool too, especially from like a money savings aspect, Predators have been around for many decades, for like, yeah, as long as, back in the 90s, Predators came out. The kit's newer than that, don't get me wrong. The kit's from like the 2010s, which by the way is like perfectly fine. GW really upped their game by then. But anyways, what I'm getting at, you can get these used on eBay all day, every day. And you can get them really cheap. You can get them for like 40 bucks. I've seen some for like 35 bucks before or whatever. In fact, I am tempted to get on eBay after doing this video and just pick up more, even though I already own 3 of them. So do be aware from a collecting standpoint, super easy to get. Next up, Havocs. I think Havocs are going to be way more common than they were in the index, assuming they stay the same price, which again, often the points do stay the same, or at least very close to them. 120 points for an anti-tank squad, or anti-anything, depending on the loadout you give them. Very, very, very valid. What's cool too, they're infantry, so you can toss them inside a Rhino. You can toss 2 squads inside a Rhino, in fact. Again, Rhino has firing ports, so all of a sudden he's shooting out las cannons or cheaper chain cannons, etc., etc. Speaking of, so I really would magnetize these guys if you're able to, because they got those are the 2 options I'd think of. Las cannon, pretty obvious. That gives you anti-tank, but then you also got the Reaper chain cannon. That gives you like blob infantry. Orcs are going to be a menace. Orcs are something you're going to run into. While each of these guys gives you 8 shots. Strength 5, no AP, but it doesn't suck. They have a 5-up save, so whatever, 1 damage each. You give them reroll all hits and wounds, which is fairly easy, relatively easy, depending on the detachment. And CSM, these guys are really going to pop. I think Havocs, especially from, they're usually cheaper than a lot of the other options and infinitely easier to get your hands on. I think Havocs are fantastic if you're starting a new CSM army. Lastly, so this is like bonus. This is like competitive units, if that's the route you want to go, or at least something like keep your eyes on. Maybe got an asshole friend who always kicks your butt. He doesn't tune down his list or anything like that. Maybe you want to give him, show him what's up. So these are some of the options I think are like exceptionally good. First of all, Rhinos. CSM make like exceptional good use of transports. Like, we love transports, man, for multiple reasons. First of all, they're really cheap. 75 points is a steal for 10 wounds, T9, 12-inch move. Like, that is insane. They have, like, okay firepower, too. It's really good at, like, anti-horde. A combi bolter and then the havoc launcher. Like, you're getting like 10 shots into infantry in the sword. Very powerful there. He has the firing ports so stuff can shoot out. Again, 12-inch move. Any infantry you put in there, bang, just gain 12-inch. In fact, in a sense, they gain 15-inch movement because you can deploy 3 inches away. And in fact, that's a strategy some people will use. They'll load their rhino, and when they deploy it, they'll put it right on the line for the deployment zone. And then they don't even move the rhino. They just jump their people out, they gain 3 inches, and then they move 6 inches. So your 6-inch move unit just gained 50% movement from doing that. So rhinos, most definitely take a look at. This played in the exact same as predators, by the way. These guys are ultra common on eBay. You can get them ultra cheap on eBay. I wouldn't be surprised if they're like 25 bucks, like left and right on eBay. 100%, man, like rhinos, you can't go wrong with them. You can even get 3 of them, and they'll probably serve you well. Next up, here they are. So, Warp Talons. Warp Talons, I mentioned it earlier, so I spoiled it for you. But Warp Talons, one of the best units in the entire game right now. People are like, some people have been freaking out about like how good their ability is to go back into Deep Strike. That is deceptively strong. These guys are amazing. I used to always run them MSU, multiple small units, so you run them in the minimum size. I've been considering, I have been like playtesting with at least one 10-man brick. You literally could go out and buy 6 boxes of these and not go wrong. You can also, if you magnetize them, you can also run them as Raptors, which before I mentioned were decent as well. And in fact, yeah, they belong in the competitive section as well. Raptors are great, man. Cheap little like scorers and whatnot. Can't go wrong with either of these. If you want to go like competitive focus, 100%, man. Raptors. Like I would probably consider 3 MSU squads of them for most lists. I won't spend much time on this one because I already went over him, but Vindicator, again, is really competitive. You're going to be seeing them all the time in a lot of, like, tournament lists. Again, not just for CSM, but, like, Space Marines. Anybody can bring them. Definitely going to be bringing them when they can. And then this is not CSM. This would be an ally, but Nurglings. If you're going for competitive play, these are just, like, auto-include. What's awesome, the kit's really cheap. It used to be, like, 30 bucks. You know, in GW, it's probably, like, 35 or 40 or something. Ultra cheap, but here's a pro tip, here's a modeling tip for you. When you put them on, they come in like 3 parts, these little Nurgling guys right there. If you just split them up, so you don't put all 3 sections together, you just put one down, you can at least double, I believe you can triple the number of bases from a single $30, $35, whatever the hell it is, kit of Nurglings. So one box will set you for the rest of your, rest of 10th edition. Yeah, Nurglings, if you're going for competitive play, and even just fun, man, like who doesn't love Nurglings? Like, they're a cute little fun unit. But you can't go wrong with Nurglings. They are exceptional for CSM. They're exceptional for any army that can bring them, in fact. Alright, next up, so I wanted to go on expanding your army. So those were units that, yeah, so I sort of went over that in a sense by the like units that you can look at. But when it comes to like expanding, so one thing I would recommend is like find a focus for your list. Truthfully, what I would do is like watch my codex review, or you know, like learn the codex, or better yet, buy the codex and go through it. Take a look at the detachments, see which one like fits your narrative, which one fits like your headcanon, or just like your favorite playstyle. Maybe you like pragmatic, you know, super uncaring, shooty dudes. Iron Warriors, fantastic for it. Maybe you're a cool guy and you like pirates, renegade raiders, perfect for it. Maybe you like, you know, you were grown up ultra Mormon and had to do all the missionary stuff, and you know you love like corrupting people with that evil stuff like that. I'm joking, by the way. You know, everybody's welcome. Anyways, you can go word bearers. They were fantastic, or just like demons. They love demons as well. So if you're gonna bring a lot of allies in there, at the very end of this video, I'm gonna go over some resources I use for learning about armies and whatnot. So if you haven't, maybe you don't have the codex or whatever your reason, or you just want to learn about specific units, legions, etc., I have some resources I'll go over at the end that are great for that. But again, find a focus and build into it. That's the way I would do it. So when I first got into CSM, I liked the demon engines because I did, yeah, Lord Discordance. So mainly, initially, I did Iron Warriors and I loved them. You can paint them up all cool, and then you'll learn that section. Eventually, you decide, you know, I got all these demon engines. Maybe I should look into Vashtor. There's a bunch of ways that builds beyond that. Beyond finding like a focus and the fluff and whatnot, be sure that you're remembering scoring and like shenanigans, as I like to call them. But yeah, be sure that you always remember scoring. Newer players, that's the biggest thing they struggle with. They think it's all about just killing each other. Not at all, man. That's kind of how you lose games. It's just like getting hyper fixated on killing. Nah, you need to be scoring. So stuff that does exceptionally well at that is, again, the jump infantry. They are fantastic for it. Nurglings, I already mentioned them earlier, they would be fantastic for it. And then cheap stuff, cultists. If you don't already own cultists, like, you should be tossing them in there. Beyond that, like, just like fast stuff is generally what works best for it. So Possessed would be great, 9-inch move. Venom Crawlers would be great, 12-inch move. If you like to look at any of these, like, that's, worth considering there. But yeah, scoring, huge deal. Make sure you're, like, thinking about it. If you are brand new, if you're going into your first game, you do whatever. But maybe you're beyond the, like, learning process, but now you want to start winning. 100%, my biggest piece of advice is, like, start every turn wondering, how do I maximize my score? And then the second thing you should think is, how do I prevent my opponent from maximizing his score? What are those two things I can do? Start every turn that way, and I guarantee the wins will start to come eventually. Obviously, the second part of that is just practice. Practice, practice, practice. Learn your army inside and out. For firepower, so Forge Fiends are beautiful. Not only are they sexy, but they have really good like damage output. One of the benefits they have over, say, a Predator or a Vindicator or the sort, they have 3 separate blast weapons. So they are anti-everything. Strength 10, so good anti-vehicle, and exceptional anti-infantry. And if somebody runs a big blob of like 20 orcs, Forge Fiend's going to love it, because he's going to get an extra, again, he has 3 blasts, he would get an extra 12 shots on top of his 3d3 shots as well. So that'd be average 18 3 damage shots. He also has -3 AP. That is an exceptional value. CSM as a whole have fairly middling AP. Not the Forge Fiend. This guy has, again, exceptional. The Predator Destructor, you have to boost him up. Like, you have to target an infantry before you get that. Not this guy. Speaking of boosting up, you can get him to AP 4 easy peasy. You can also get reroll hits and wounds relatively easily. You combine that with his Devastating Wounds ability. Like, this guy will march through anything, and he looks sick as hell. Now, the reason that you often are going to see Predators or Vindicators more often is that it's kind of spendy. Currently, as of recording, he's 200 points. Ooh, I could save 70 points with the Predator, and I could bring freaking, like, Trader Guard. I bring a whole nother unit for those 70 points. So that is one thing to be aware of. But again, he looks awesome. And if you're starting an army, guys, like, again, the power level doesn't matter. In which case, genuinely, like, if you were to ask me, what should I get, a boring Predator or a super sick-ass, psycho, badass Forge Fiend? Like, come on, you know what I'm going to say. Beyond that, I kind of mentioned them earlier, but yeah, Havocs are a perfect addition, Predator's perfect addition. If you like Obliterators, don't let me stop you. They might get a big points cut. They used to be able to run in squads of 4. In fact, I guess I could delete 2 of these guys. So they had some value there. Now they can only go in pairs, so that does hold them back, but they look so cool. And I bet, and I know, they're fairly cheap on eBay, like relatively cheap. So actually, yeah, come to think of that, maybe you're on a budget or whatever, these guys would be a good option as well. Again, Predators are probably cheaper, but I'm not sure. So get on eBay after this video, see. But these guys are perfectly fine for it. And again, they play into the anti-everything, because you got anti-tank, anti-elite, and then anti-chaff. So you got a little bit of everything with these guys. Even good melee. Obliterators, perfectly valid there. Next up, or lastly, so we got, like, the fun stuff. So this is just stuff I think looks cool and, like, belongs in most lists that are, like, fluffy or whatever. So first of all, Abaddon. Like, come on, man, he's the main bad guy in the setting. He's a badass. People used to make fun of him all the time, but no, I think he's pretty cool. They fixed the lore so that all of his Black Crusades weren't a joke. He meant to fail all those Black Crusades. You know what I mean? Abaddon, perfectly good pick. And again, he helps you get up to 2K or 1500 or even 1K. He helps you get there really quick. So if you're trying to, like, get on, you're just starting, you don't have that many units, and you're trying to get to bigger games as fast as you can, Abaddon, perfect choice. If you're looking for handsome men, let me introduce you to my fiancé, the Lord Discordant. This guy, such a sick model. I think almost everybody agrees that, yeah, he's one of the better models in the game. Almost everybody's sad that GW still hasn't buffed him. Like, he's paying for his sins of previous editions, because he was, like, all that and then some in 8th and 9th edition. So unfortunately, he's still paying for it. But again, if you're looking for cool stuff, especially fluffy, if you want to, man, if you're like the coolest person ever, and I wish I could hang out with you, and you want to do like a demon-only engine list, like a Vashtor list, yeah, he's perfect for it. He's literally a demon engine himself. Speaking of demon engines, unfortunately, I don't have the model here, but Vashtor. Vashtor would be a runner-up to, like, Abaddon, or if you like his playstyle, he's great. His fluff is fantastic. He's trying to become the 5th Chaos God. He runs the Forge of Souls, all this fun stuff. Vashtor is definitely worth looking at. And then the final fluffy option, in my humble opinion, again, the cultists. Not just, like, the regular cultists, but traitor guards. Like, come on, man, who doesn't love that like, style and idea of army? Ooh, I wish they get their own army book one day. Like, probably be 11th edition, if it even happened. Dark Mechanicum can come first, but either way, traitor guard would be fantastic. The Astra Militarum, dude, they need to add a detachment that's traitor. Like, come on, why hasn't that been done already? But anyways, they're really fluffy and fun. Cheap points-wise, relatively cheap monetarily-wise. And then a Cursed Cultist, like, what's not to love about them? Stupid cultists who didn't think it through and are getting taken advantage of by Chaos. Like, come on, we love it all. They're pretty good in melee. They're relatively expensive as of recording, 105 points, but for sure, they'll do some work. And again, in smaller point games, yes, they will definitely pull their weight at that point. Alright, so last up, so I want to go over some modeling tips for you guys. So, I've been playing, just a little bit about me, I've been playing 40k, or been into 40k, I should more accurately say, since the 90s. I think like 96 is when I first got into 40k. I thought they were toys initially. I lived next to a card shop or whatever, yeah, I was weighing them, so I've been doing it forever. Kit bashing and like making your kits look. I'm Snowflake. I love them to look like unique. I don't want them to look like anybody else's Terminators or whatever it is. So I'm big into that stuff. But anyway, so I got some pretty good advice. I would hope. So the big one I'm going to toss at you is to magnetize stuff. Magnetize everything. It's really easy. I've been building up my army like a madman, like painting them mainly the last couple weeks in preparation for the codex. So I just built a couple of squads. I even bought more last night of Warp Talons. I magnetize every single one of them. It's ultra easy, man. With these guys, for example, you just drill their shoulder, and yeah, man, it's ultra easy. Magnetize. I guarantee there's a video on YouTube, a video tutorial for it for practically any model you can think of. You could even be like, want to magnetize your Defiler? I wouldn't be the least bit surprised if there's a magnetizing video out there. Guys, it's important. Not only does it spread your money further, so an army, so maybe next edition, yeah, Warp Talons are garbage. Well, cool, I'm just going to swap them over to Raptors. Or maybe Melt-A-Guns suck. Now Flamers are the hot stuff. Well, cool, I'm just going to change their weapon over. You can also transfer the weapons between squads. So I use a Raptors Melta on my Legionary squad, for example. So many reasons to do it. It's really not hard. I swear to you, it's not hard. The magnets are cheap. You can get a drill off Amazon or Walmart. You can get the crappiest drill ever made in eternity, and it'll work fine for it. I would strongly recommend magnetizing these guys. Next up, so I've mentioned a few times in the video, but Legionaries are a bunch of things. Legionaries are not Legionaries. Legionaries are chosen. Legionaries are Chaos Lords. Legionaries are like pretty much any model that looks like a basic CSM, dude. They can even be Havocs if you want them to. Legionaries can be anything. So again, if you're trying to push your money far, yeah, man, look into the Legionaries. Especially for like Lords. They make exceptional Lords, especially if you take some time to kit bash them and all that sort of stuff. Speaking of making Lords, exact same principle applies to Chaos Terminators. Theoretically, honestly, even with Legionaries, theoretically, you don't have to do anything. You wouldn't have to kit bash or paint them special or anything like that. Theoretically, you just set one aside and say, yep, that's my Lord. Truthfully, though, you should like try to, make them stand out. So usually I kit bash. One super simple way if you're going the Legionary route, just make the headless guys. So you can say on the table, yeah, anybody without a helmet, he's a chosen. Anybody with a helmet, that's a Legionary. Or the ultra simple way is just paint the bases a certain color. So like the rim of the base, you can put like a line on it, or you can paint it red. Million different ways you can do it, but I would recommend you try to have them stand out. So for the Jump Lord, Raptor makes perfect little guy right there. What's cool too about the Raptor kit is it comes with some of every special weapon. So again, you can steal their special weapons and put it onto other squads. Maybe you want more Meltas on your Legionaries, whatever the reason is, Raptors can do it. And again, you make them Lord easy peasy. I own, I have a bunch of them, and I already own, like, Chaos Lord, Jump Lords of that, even though they got legended, but I made more of them with my Raptors kit, and it was cool. I can use them for either or, so maybe I already have my Jump Lords, I don't need any more, or I don't like how they look, whatever the reason is, yeah, I'll just keep running them as a Raptor. So that's a tip right there. Another tip for you, so Havocs. I would strongly recommend magnetize their base. So these guys have a 40mm base. Legionaries have a 32mm base, so they are not interchangeable if you didn't already know that. Well, if you stick these dudes onto a 32mm base, put a little magnet on the bottom, bada bing, bada boom, man. Now you got either or. I do think that's very worth it, because, yeah, then you can have whatever special weapons you need for whatever squad of Legionary. Because Legionary can also bring heavy weapons, and you pretty much always do that. Even though you go melee focused normally, you still toss in a las cannon if you can. I would look into magnetizing the arms as well. That's pretty important there, because that way you can use the weapons on anything. I should warn you, unfortunately, the kits only come with 2 of each weapon, so to get a dedicated squad, you're going to buy 2 boxes of these, but to me, that's not that big a deal, because I love Havocs as it is, so like 2 boxes, like, okay, that's fine with me. I'm pretty sure I own 3 boxes, in fact, and it's cool, man, because again, I got leftover weapons that I can use on my Legionaries, so lots of value there. I would strongly recommend you, yeah, magnetize the base, at least consider it. The last tip, so I can't really show it in TTS or whatever, but painting, so maybe you're, yeah, maybe you're nervous about painting. So I've been playing for like over 20 years. I do not consider myself a good painter in the least bit, and I do get nervous painting. When I have a really fancy kit, I get really nervous painting it. And in fact, so I pretty much finished my CSM just the other day. Now I'm on to Slanesh. Oh man, it makes me shudder. I actually currently, as of this moment, I hate painting Slanesh so much. She's just such a pain in the ass to get right. But anyway, so what I'm getting at, a really good trick is dry brushing. Dry brushing is your friend. I personally do not like contrast paints. I need to learn how to do them better because they get really splotchy. In fact, if you're watching this, if you got any tips for contrast paints, like how do I make it not look all splotchy or whatever? But dry brushing is like my secret weapon. And in fact, no joke, and I'm not trying to gloat in the least bit or whatever, I have won 2 local painting contests with my armies, which I always find is hilarious because I'm like, dude, I spent like 10 minutes on this. Like, that is wild that I won. So like an easy example, you can spray paint some Ollerfiend. I love them, and I think mine looks awesome. Primer them black. Dry brush them your main color. So for me, it was orange that I washed down to like a brown, so it kind of looks rusty. And then just highlight all the trim with metal, and then dry brush the metal as well. Dry brush metal looks really sick over black. And then wash the entire thing in Agrax. In fact, a bigger tip than dry brushing is to wash all your models, man. Unless you're looking for hyper clean, whatever your reason is, Agrax Earthshade is literally like a cheat code for painting. If you've like painted armies before, but you've never washed them or never used Agrax Earthshade, please go out and buy it. In fact, you can email me later and be like, I hated it, and I'll like give you a refund. That's a joke. I'm not actually gonna give you a refund, but I I almost guarantee, man, like, yeah, your army will look better. That's one of my biggest things when people post on Reddit, like, look at my awesome army. First of all, I always applaud it. Like, you know, every army looks sick, unless you really did bad. But then if they didn't wash it, that's almost always my, ooh, if I give you one tip, like, maybe consider washing it. Works especially well in, like, skin and stuff like that. You can just paint them a solid color, so, like, skin, okay, I don't know who's a good, yeah, these guys. You paint a solid color of skin, wash it with Agrax Earthshade, boom, you got a really, like, almost professional-looking model. People who aren't into, like, modeling themselves will think that you spent way more time on it than you did. So, those are my modeling tips. Again, I would strongly recommend you guys magnetize. Remember that you can convert like anything. So legionaries become like lords. They can become, man, if you put enough like effort into it, it'd super make it a master executions or a master possession. You make it like pretty much any infantry-sized dude. If you put the effort into it, you totally do it. On that same note, if you are brand new and playing with friends, don't be afraid to proxy or counts as. So you run a model and you say it's something else. Now, technically, the base size doesn't have to matter. The footprint doesn't have to matter. Like any of that stuff, you just want to try it out. Most people are cool with it, even complete strangers. So long as, you know, you're not playing like a competitive game or whatever, 99% of the time, they're going to be fine with it. Just don't try to run like something cheesy. That's stupid when you do it that way. But maybe, yeah, you aren't sure on the Mauler Fiends, but you're tempted to buy it because like Fat Archon said they're actually pretty cool. Yeah, man, just run your, I don't know, your Defiler or whatever the hell you want. You could run in fact, run your Forge Fiend as a Mauler Fiend. That's no issue at all. Alright, last up, I want to show you guys some lists. So, I have 3 different lists for you. Let me make some room here. The first list is going to be, the first and second are going to be building off those combat patrols. So maybe you yourself went out and bought that combat patrol. The other one, the third one is just like models I thought were cool. So, let's see, CP list 1. So again, these builds off the combat patrol. So, what have we got here? So we got a Master Executions. I expanded the Possessed to be a 10-man, so we got a brick with the MOP. We got 2 Legionaries. It says Chosen, but these are Legionaries. We got 2 Havocs. a Rhino for your Havocs or Legionaries to jump inside of, Cultist, and then a Predator. I think this is a great take-all-comers list. It does sorta lean towards like anti-tank or like heavy firepower, sorta. I should mention too, las cannons, and these would be the chain cannons. I always bring a variety. Again, toss them inside a Rhino. If you do want to go more competitive, yeah, 100% toss them in the Rhino, and then run Renegade Raiders, and that way you drop out whichever you need, and you get reroll all hits and wounds. That's a very powerful trick there. Possessed, you got a brick / distraction / like objective flipper. Melee, like you might think melee is bad because yeah, you got to spend at least a turn getting into it. And then you got the restrictive movement, all that sort of stuff. But they excel at flipping objectives. Flipping objectives is how you win the game, or scoring period is how you win the game. I mentioned it earlier, like always be sure you're focusing on scoring. That's like the biggest mistake I see noobs doing is forgetting to score. Possess help play into like fixing that up. I think this is a fun list. I would totally like hop on TTS and play somebody with this list, and I'd be pretty confident with it. So yeah, that was the first one. And again, this uses the current Combat Patrol, so pretty much anybody could buy it. I don't think it's that expensive. You gotta get the Havocs. The Possessed would be a little spendy, but the Predator would be super cheap, and the Rhino would be ultra cheap. Yeah, I think it's a fun list right there. Next up, so this plays off the Legacy kit. Let's see. So I like don't even remember these lists I put together, but let's take a look here. So yeah, we got the Dark Apostle. I brought some Warp Talons, 2 squads of Warp Talons, so maybe we're getting a little competitive here. But mostly I want speedy stuff to, yeah, clear out other infantry and take objectives. We got the 20 Cultists. I brought in the Havocs again. Well, I already came with 1 Havoc, so I brought an additional Havoc. Again, you go with Las Cannons, Chain Reapers, 100% you toss these guys in the Rhino. And then Dark Apostle, I did a Legionary brick. So the issue with Dark Apostle and a brick of Legionaries, so you could split them in 2 5s, you can't fit in a Rhino, because that'd be 13 miles at that point, and you can't choose not to bring one. Now, if you're playing casual games with your friends, like, you do you, man. Ask them if it's okay, and hopefully they're chill with it. But that's the one issue with the brick. So you could consider splitting these guys in 2. Oops. You could consider splitting them in 2, and then you could put them in a Rhino. But no, optimally, you'd put the Havocs in there. Hellbrute, he's just awesome. What's cool, too, is he buffs the rest of your army. If you put the Havocs in the Rhino, it's not going to come up every single turn, but he would mainly buff up the Havocs. Don't forget, too, the Rhino does have the firing port. I brought it up a few times, but he also gets a shootout. This is, yet again, a list I would have no problem playing on TTS or with my friends. I would totally be confident running that guy out there. You got the speedy the Warp Talons, too, man. If you've never ran them before, they're going to surprise you. Anything that's like, especially stuff that's like T4, and super especially if they have a bad armor save, like you almost don't even need to roll. You can just pick them up with the Warp Talons and, yeah, finish it. And again, Dark Apostle, I freaking love this model so much. Mine turned out so good. I have a few of them. So when I first got into CSM, I bought their original Start Collecting boxes. Man, I wish they're still around because those are steel. But anyways, all I did to make them unique, because they are monopose, I just put different helmets on them. And you can try this on your end. I picked out a cool helmet, and I had it facing the book. And it almost looks better than this one, man, because it's like he's reading from it. Yeah, anyways, one day, people have requested a bunch of times. One day, I'll show you guys pictures of my models, because I am pretty proud of them. I hope you, too, are proud of your army. Like, you know, we put love and attention into them. All right, last up, so again, this doesn't necessarily build off the other kits. This is just like, if I was to start from scratch again, I want an army. So I guess this is like a peek into the crazy mind of Fat Archon and like the stuff I'm into when it comes to CSM. I love demonic stuff big time. So we got 1 squad of Warp Talons. Really, they belong in like every single list. We got 2 squads of Possessed. Again, you could alternatively put them together, and then you got another Beat Stick, but I kind of wanted more units so I can like help with scoring and stuff. Mauler Fiends. Mauler Fiends are way better than people say they are. They're not that terrible at all, especially if you run them like the Vast Door detachment. Suddenly you're getting +2 melee attacks. I love Mauler Fiends. They're great distraction Carnifexes. You rush them in your opponent's face, he's gotta deal with them, or and while the rest of your army goes wild. If he doesn't deal with them, like, damn, man, it's gonna hurt both infantry and vehicles. I don't run them with the tentacles. I do the Melta. That way they're like hyper focused on the like big stuff. Lord Discordant, my fiance. I love this man so much. I've been having, like, so I'm probably going to do a video on him, like, soon, on just how to get the most out of Lord Discordant, because people love him for good reason. But I've been running Renegade Raider. You give him the 6-inch Scout Relic, and then they have a stratagem they have a couple really good stratagems. They have multiple good stratagems, like 4 of them that key off this guy, but you can advance and charge T1, you give him an auto 6-inch advance and then charge T1, you can give him you can't give him the reroll hits and wounds, you can have him fall back after melee, so like he kills a bunch of infantry and then moves another 10 inches, like you can make him work. 2-up safe, he's not a vehicle, so if you're locked in combat, you can't shoot him, like blah blah blah. Okay, this video isn't about Lord Discordant, but again, you're gonna peek into my psychotic mind on how I look at these things. Oh, and then Venom Crawler. Truthfully, I think every CSM army could use a Venom Crawler. They are exceptionally cheap, or at least they used to be exceptionally cheap on eBay. They were like 30 bucks each. That's a steal in 40k dollars. Venom Crawler belongs everywhere, and he plays on this army. This army is really fast. Like this army is like exceptionally fast overall and pretty killy. I'm a weirdo, so obviously I picked out the units I like. If I had to pick one of these armies to like play, it would be this one. But if I was going to like a tournament or something, a 1k tournament, it'd be a toss-up between these two. I'd probably, because of the Warp Talons, I'd probably go the Hellbrute route, but I think this one's just as valid. And then again, for a fun side, even if it was a tournament, I'd have a lot of fun with this one. I'll post all the links in the description below in case you guys want to check them out yourself. I would love to hear your guys' opinions if on these lists, that's fine, or anything else. But yeah, let me know what like you might change, what you've been running on your end. Sincerely, guys, if you have any questions whatsoever, whether it's about collecting, playing, rules, 40k in general, chaos in general, demons, I don't care what it is, you are welcome to reach out to me. I will always go out of my way to, do to the best of my ability, I will always try to help you. I've had a couple people emailing me, and we've been going back and forth on random questions they've had. Don't be afraid to reach out for anything. So I think that, oh wait, there's one last thing, so resources. What are some really good 40k resources, mainly specific to Chaos, CSM? So the first one is what you're looking at here, Tabletop Simulator. Tabletop Simulator is like a marvel of engineering. I freaking love this tool. If you can't tell, like I record almost every video with it. If you've never used it before, I actually have a tutorial for it, so check out my webpage, or my video library. It's my most popular video I ever made. I do plan on doing an update, a 2024 update, because I recorded that when 10th edition was new, so all the advice is correct. Nothing's wrong in it, but I did talk about how, oh yeah, if you want to make an army, like theoretically, you just set stuff aside and save it. And then I went over making it in Battlescribe. Well, no, you should always make it in Battlescribe. Speaking of, that's another huge resource, Battlescribe. If you've never heard of it, Battlescribe is an army list writer. It helps you like write up lists. It shows you all their points, all their rules, all that sort of stuff. It's also great for referencing during your game, so you don't have to pull out your codex or anything. You just pull up Battlescribe and show somebody. It's a huge resource. Like, absolutely use Battlescribe if you haven't. Well, I love too, man. I could be sitting on the toilet at work or something. Yeah, I'm bored. I'm writing up a list for CSM. You know, like it's wonderful for the hobby, or even for the hobby side. I'll post links below in the description for everything I'm bringing up here, by the way. So, again, if you've never used Battlescribe, definitely get it. You can use it on your phone as well, both your computer and your phone, so very handy tool. When it comes to, well, okay, before I do that, so another thing somewhat related, well, it is related, Wahapedia. Wahapedia is basically a repository of all the rules. So, not only unit profiles, but also army rules, every stratagem, all that sort of stuff. Where that's exceptional is learning other people's armies. Not only yours, like obviously there's a lot of value there, but learning other people's armies has lots of value there. I do it all the time, man. When I'm playing TTS, because it's super easy, just open up a web page and look something up. I'll have somebody bring up a rule that sounds kind of questionable or whatever. It takes me literally 20 seconds, 10 seconds to look up that rule on Wahapedia, and boom, I caught you cheating, you little cheater. No, it's almost always an honest mistake, although I have, you know, that sort of stuff does come up, but don't worry about that. Yeah, Wahapedia is fantastic. It's great too. Maybe you're not sure you want to play. So CSM, so it'll be a couple weeks most likely before it's updated with the codex stuff. But once it's updated, maybe you're not sure if you want to play this army. Maybe you're not sure about demons or Chaos Knights. You don't know the rules too well. Like, you know, what does that profile look like? Dude, just go on Wahapedia. All the time, the most common way I do it, I will Google. It'll literally be, I'll be like, you know, Lord of Change Wahapedia will be my Google search. Boom, 10 seconds later, I'm learning about the Lord of Change. The other option is watch my videos, but yeah, Wahapedia, fantastic for learning the rules side of things. When it comes to math hammer, so maybe maybe you are competitively minded, or you're just interested in, just curious about it. If you want to know like how efficient a unit is into another unit, or even just in general, Unit Crunch is a fantastic resource. Its developer is a swell dude. I love that guy. He's really nice. He's like so kind. I've seen him on Reddit. He's commented on some of my videos too. Unit Crunch, excellent resource, especially when you start getting into the more competitive side of things. You can see exactly how much damage on average a possessed brick will do into Corn Lord of Skulls, whatever freaking like idea you got. You can input it all yourself. You can add all the modifiers. So what if I get reroll hits? What if I reroll wins of 1, etc., etc.? Yeah, Unit Crunch, such a good resource. Next up, you got Reddit. Reddit is just like for everything, for questions. So first of all, you can comment on my video and I'll always answer it. But the other option, you'll get more points of view. So, debatably, it's superior that way, is Reddit. Some big subreddits. You got the obvious one, the Warhammer 40k subreddit. And then there's Warhammer Competitive. I believe it's I'm having a brain fart. I'm pretty sure it's Warhammer Competitive. Again, I'll post them in the description below. That's a great one. For Chaos stuff, you got Chaos 40k. Again, they're all listed below. Reddit is a great resource. I know a lot of people suck, but when you that's just internet in general. When you find a particular when you find a particular hobby or subject that everybody agrees on, no, most people are nice. By the way, you'll probably see me on there commenting random stuff, getting into random arguments. No, I really try to avoid arguments. Yeah, Reddit, fantastic resource. All right, when it comes to like fluff and lore and all that sort of stuff, so you got the obvious one, YouTube. I'm not going to mention that though, but yeah, you can do YouTube. There's like I forget the exact website. I'll post in a link in the description below. There's like 40kwiki.com or something like that. That has that has really good lore in it as well. The one I mainly use personally, I really like 1D6chan. So don't worry, I'm not like a 4chan nutso or whatever, but 1D6chan is not really 4chan. It's basically a wiki that like normal people can edit. And they do good for lore. It is exceptional in my humble opinion. It's exceptional for lore, and it goes like way back. And they bring up stuff that like the sanitized wikis aren't going to bring up at all. Stuff that GW's changed, or like I don't know, a gross thing about a particular character. Like I think it's hilarious a lot of times, and it really is like really dense, and it has stuff for literally everything, dude. You want to learn about Lord Discordant? Go on there. You want to learn about Hellbrutes? Go on there. It'll tell you like how they're invented, what god is like involved with it, all this sort of stuff. 1D6chan I love. Now, I'm going to warn you, for tactical stuff like strategy, it's terrible. They have some of the worst advice I've ever seen in my entire life, and it's always been like that. Like, it's fine, still read through it, you'll still learn some stuff, and everybody's point of view is, like, always valid, even if I don't agree with it. But it is pretty garbage, so even though I don't agree with it, yeah, it's pretty terrible advice, usually. You know what's funny is I've tried updating, so it used to be 1D4chan, and I guess there's, like, drama with the owner, and he closed it down, now it's 1D6chan. But back in the 1D4chan days, I didn't try to, like, rewrite stuff, I just tried to add stuff on. I would never rewrite somebody else's like info, but in the strategy pages I would try to update it so it gave you like relevant advice, because they really would give you terrible advice. They would say like when Forge Fiend was one of the best units in the game, they would talk about like how bad it was, like just silly stuff like that. But anyways, everything I ever wrote ever got immediately deleted like the next day and never stuck around ever. So good luck editing it. But regardless, 1D6chan is fantastic, especially if you're into like meme lore or whatever. Yeah, it's really fun there. And memes in general, they got memes up the wazoo. Not just about Warhammer, they cover like every nerdy subject. Last of all, you got me. Sorry to be a typical YouTuber, but legit, if you, I've already said too many times, so I'm not gonna like repeat it verbatim. But if you have any questions, guys, don't be afraid to reach out. You can always email me as well. I prefer you comment. That way, the video gets like, it helps the metrics. But you can email me for sure. A bunch of people do. I get emails at least every week. I get an email, and sometimes it's not something you fit in a comment. So by all means, you can always email me. I am always happy to help. I'm big on like being positive and supportive and productive with stuff. You'll never see me tell you have a stupid idea or whatever. If you're hyped about something, I'm gonna be hyped about it with you too. So by all means, you can reach out to me if you got anything else. Anyways, I hope this video was useful. For sure, if you guys have tips, if like maybe your experience and for some reason you watched this entire thing, which thank you, but if you have any tips for other people, be sure to post them down below. Again, you can reach out to me if you need anything. If you haven't already, please consider liking and subscribing. The channel's been growing so fast, man. I took a long hiatus. I took like a 6 or maybe even longer, maybe it's like 8-month hiatus, which was sad. I wish I'd kept doing it. The first month this channel was up, I got 1,000 views or 1,000 subscribers. That is nuts. And then it sort of, you know, went over. I started putting out videos, and since I started putting out videos again, in just like a month, I've gotten like another 500, something like that. I've gotten a lot of subscribers. We're almost at 3K. Well, I would love it. I do plan on doing, so the codex is coming out. I'm going to be doing a whole lot more chaos content. If you're into demons, I already have a bunch of demon content. I plan on updating a lot of this stuff that I've put out there. Again, if you have any suggestions, I would love to hear suggestions. This video was a user request, so if you have any requests, put it out there. I consider every single one. Either way, guys, I hope you appreciated the video. Good luck out there, and remember, death to the false emperor.